So always remember, when you hear someone from the SEC speaking, you have to remember that what they say really means nothing. In fact, they even tell you that what they're saying doesn't mean anything. Because Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, just came out and gave his opinions on things and then clarified that what he is saying is just his opinion and isn't the stance of the SEC. Same thing for all the other chairs of the SEC. Whatever they say, whatever their opinions are, it's not the stance of the SEC. So if the chairs of the SEC say something and it's not what the SEC means, does that mean that all of the cases and all of the clarity that the SEC is bringing to the crypto world doesn't actually exist? Alright, I'm not going to repeat that because this is just getting ridiculous. But the head of the SEC, Gary Gensler, was live today. In fact, he's put out several videos recently talking about regulatory clarity in the crypto space. And some of the questions were revolving around Ethereum, and he dodged them like a professional. So what does that mean for the Ripple versus the SEC case? We'll discuss that a little bit here. Also, Google, after years and years of banning ads from cryptocurrency companies, they've now allowed and opened the doors to advertising from different crypto businesses. I'm going to tell you what types of crypto ads you may be seeing on Google from now on, and why it could be a good thing for the crypto market. Hey everyone, my name is Randy. Welcome back to the Late Night Grind. This is a channel that's right now covering cryptocurrency news, investment markets, personal finance, and of course the Ripple versus the SEC case. So if you want to follow along with any of those topics, make sure you're subscribed. Just hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, so YouTube will send you a notification when I release a new video. And I believe that people in the crypto space are some of the most generous people in the world. So if you are feeling generous, go ahead, hit the thumbs up button. It really helps out with the YouTube algorithm and tells YouTube to share this video with new audiences. So if you would, go ahead and do that. I'd greatly appreciate it. Alright guys, so let's jump into it. So I wanted to jump in real quick with the news that Google has actually allowed certain types of crypto advertising to be done on the Google network. Now, this isn't new news. They actually said about 2 months ago that they were going to be allowing this. Well, starting now, they will officially be allowing advertisements from A, exchanges, and B, from crypto wallets. Now, there are some caveats. Any exchanges that do any advertising, any wallet companies that do any advertising, they have to be registered with FinCEN. So there's still going to be some regulation around who can and can't advertise on Google, but depending on what you search for and depending on what sites you visit, you might start to see some advertisements for some crypto exchanges, which is really interesting because Gary Gensler, who was live earlier today talking about all his thoughts on a host of different things, specifically made mention of regulatory clarity in the crypto space. Now, if you've been following the crypto space for some time, you know that Gary Gensler, before he became the head of the SEC, he was seen as being very pro-crypto. And then when he came into office, he said a couple of things that started to worry people in the crypto investment space. And now he followed that up and basically confirmed that. He wasn't just going to come in and let go of the case versus Ripple. In fact, sounds like he's doubling down on it, or at the very least, avoiding it altogether. So in this video, he took questions and basically backed up his stance that he wants to take more and more regulatory action, specifically against exchanges. Now, he said this a couple of months ago, and he's been saying it again. In fact, he's now urging Congress to write into bills, specifically this infrastructure bill that's bipartisan, both Democrats and enough Republicans are now saying yes to, that they're now looking to tax crypto even more and have more stringent regulations, specifically on things like exchanges. Anywhere that the United States can have jurisdiction over, the SEC is asking Congress to get that jurisdiction for the SEC to have power over. But the big thing that stuck out in my mind from what Gary Gensler was saying is that, in his opinion, that the crypto space already has plenty of regulatory clarity. Now, here we go. There's Gary Gensler saying one thing. On the other side, you have two SEC chairmen that have made some headlines recently by saying that the crypto space doesn't have any regulatory clarity. And in fact, those statements were used by Ripple in one of their motions going against the SEC, using the SEC's own words against them, which of course that's when the SEC steps up and says, any member, any chair, any opinion of the SEC, it really doesn't mean anything because, well, it's just an opinion of the SEC. It's not what the actual stance of the SEC is. If I see SEC one more time, I'm gonna... In any case, Gary Gensler then said that he feels that anybody in the crypto space should already see that there is a ton of clarity over the crypto space. And he mentioned the report where the SEC actually went ahead and sued or attempted to sue up to 75 different cryptocurrency companies over the last several years. And then if you take a look at that, you'll see there's all the clarity that you need. There's tons of clarity out there, which of course the SEC used that in one of their motions against Ripple a couple of weeks ago. Ripple's attorneys took a look at it and tore it to shreds and said they looked at every single case and not a single case was even remotely close to what the SEC claiming Ripple is doing as in terms of securities fraud. And what I thought was one of the more interesting and funny parts of the video, of the question and answer, he mentioned about regulatory clarity, and somebody followed up one of their questions by saying, well, is that what you think? Is that how Ethereum was able to get by? And right before she had a chance to finish her question, Gary Gensler interrupted and said, oh no, nice try, nice try. I'm not going to answer that. I'm not going to talk about an individual coin or an individual entity. Basically his way of skirting around the issue. So Jeremy Hogan on Twitter, who's an outside attorney covering this case, he followed that up with, of course he's going to say there's tons of regulatory clarity. Why? Because saying that there's no regulatory clarity would undermine what Ripple's defense is. Ripple has the fair notice defense, meaning there wasn't enough regulatory clarity years ago because you never told us. So of course the SEC is not going to say, well, yeah, there really is no regulatory clarity, because if they did, if Gary Gensler did, it's case dismissed, Ripple wins. So as always, Jeremy Hogan is right. You should go follow him on Twitter if you aren't already. And in another video that I saw from Gary Gensler just out a couple of days ago, he basically mentioned that at the heart of finance is trust, or trust is really at the heart of finance. And in his opinion, trust rests on the investor protection, so essentially what the SEC is attempting to do, or what they're telling you they're doing. Well, that's interesting, because a financial system shouldn't be a trust system. In fact, crypto fixes this. It becomes a trustless system. Why? Because you have to trust bankers, because bankers behind the scenes can manipulate anything they darn well want to. Whereas Bitcoin or the crypto space exists on transparent ledgers where everybody can search everything. So which system would you really trust? And some of the other news that I'm going to be covering with some other videos coming up is Gary Gensler's thoughts on a Bitcoin ETF. And he makes some of the same statements about whether or not something could be approved in any way, shape, or form. There's arguments on both sides as to whether they're going to actually approve one. In fact, I saw one speculator on a news network saying that it sounded like Gary Gensler's tone that you could expect to see some sort of Bitcoin ETF actually approved at some point in the near future, which is really interesting, because Jay Clayton, the Jay Clayton that used to be the head of the SEC that originally sued Ripple, well, he just filed for a Bitcoin ETF. I just wonder if that ETF is going to get special consideration, because Gary Gensler mentioned several times that there are certain things and certain circumstances under which certain things have more clarity than others. I'm sure that sentence didn't have any clarity at all whatsoever, but if you've been listening to the SEC for the past couple of months, it makes total sense. Let me know in the comments section down below what you think of what Gary Gensler and the US government are trying to do with the regulation of crypto, or if you were even following it at all. Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and visit the community tab on this channel. I put out polls there almost every single day. Just want to get your thoughts on this crypto space. So one of the polls that I put up out there revolves around this regulatory clarity that Gary Gensler says exists. I want to get your thoughts on it. All right, guys. Well, once again, thank you for watching all the way to the end of the video. It really helps out. I really appreciate all the support, all the comments, and of course, if you're not a subscriber, please consider hitting that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.